Good morning, and welcome back to Better Preparedness. Firstly, wherever you are, I hope you're doing well, you're in good health, and just waiting it out. Where are we? Well, this is day 18 of South Africa's lockdown. Now, the formal lockdown started on the 26th of March, and that was for 21 days. That has now been extended till the end of April. Realistically, we've been in lockdown for almost the better part of a month, because the social distancing and quieting of operations and everything started even before the 26th. It's a strange situation. I think from an emergency management perspective, because we're not dealing with like a typhoon where you can tell, okay, the storm system has passed, or a massive wildfire. Well, the fire has been silenced, so to say. This thing is still this invisible threat, and it's sort of slowly rolling out in various parts of the world and various parts of countries. And if you look in the United States, that amazing Johns Hopkins University map, they've now added a tab specific to the United States where they break it down by state. The United States is such a huge country, huge population, very, very diverse types of settings though, and you see how the virus is really got a foothold in those corners of the United States. One of the big challenges with this crisis is that every part of the world and every part of countries has gone through a different time cycle with this. And if we take right now China or South Korea as having been fairly successful at leveling off those curves, so we have fewer new cases. Well, the thing is that other countries are in such different timelines. And you've got Western Europe, which is a massive hotspot, the United States, which is a huge hotspot, and it has that room to grow, which is very worrying. But then you have other countries like South Africa. Right now, as of yesterday, the South Africa number was 2,173 confirmed cases. Now that can change, and everyone's expecting those numbers to be higher. But the efforts, I would say, in South Africa have been quite effective, and that's really encouraging. And then in Canada, the numbers as of today are 24,000 confirmed cases, and measures are in place. But again, there was a bit of a delay for the different provinces in actually taking action. So we're all waiting to see the changes brought on by measures that have been adopted. But if you look at the United States with over 550,000 confirmed cases and still lots of potential room to grow, for me, that's kind of a worrying thing. And the difference of where all these countries are in terms of their cycle of hopefully reaching a point of leveling off is that it's really hard to say when to step down on some of these measures, some of these lockdown measures, some of these businesses being shut measures. There's so many differences. And then if you look at air travel, well, international air travel is from one country to another, right? So you're looking at one country and then the other country, and is that other country at a reasonable, acceptable level? We're talking 1 or 2 or 3 or 4 months from now. But you look at Canada with 24,000 cases, and the United States with over 550,000 cases. When do you reopen those borders? When do you reopen movement of people, of services, and so on? It's a really, really tough call. And I cannot imagine the discussions that are happening in a lot of these crisis rooms in each of these countries, in each of these provinces and the states, is to say, well, what is that point at which we're ready to reduce some of the measures that are in place? If you look at South Africa has neighbors of varying capacities in terms of health systems, in terms of even knowing the levels of the virus. And so when does South Africa open its borders to its neighboring countries? You get a lot of people moving back and forth normally across these borders. South Africa is such a big economy, and you've got a lot of workforce going back and forth across those borders normally when they're open. When do we open that border? And the problem is that the longer these borders stay closed, the more the economies are impacted. It's one thing if the economy is allowed to resume running within your own country, but so many countries, their economic success really relies on having borders open to the neighboring countries. For example, Canada, with having a border open to the United States, and then within Western Europe, normally the freedom of goods to move around is critical for the economic success of France, of Germany, of Italy, and Spain. Right now, we're accepting that we just have to wait it out. And with the lockdown now scheduled for at least 2.5 more weeks, And I wouldn't be surprised to see it extended again, but maybe not, depending on the success of the numbers here in South Africa. But we're just kind of accepting. Last night we camped in the garden. The kids were really disappointed when we had to cancel a trip to go camping with some friends. I think it was the first weekend of the lockdown. So, well, we pitched the tent and slept in the garden last night. The fact that it's so quiet in the city right now means that it almost felt like we were out in the middle of sort of nowhere in the wilderness in South Africa. I have to say, it was pretty fun, just trying to make the best of it. I'm glad that this lockdown is not occurring in past living accommodations of my life, like when I used to live in parts of Europe in one-room studio apartments with a bathroom down the hallway, or at one point there was a shared bathroom down the hallway. But it's at least we have a garden, so I'm very grateful for that. And of course, the population in South Africa has such a varying degree of economic hardship and of living accommodation, and yes, social distancing in a lot of environments here in South Africa is difficult when you're huge families or significant family in a very small accommodation. All this to say, it's day 18. We've got at least another 2.5, 3 weeks to go. I think South Africa is on the right track. We're all going to be having to watch not only our own country, but our neighboring countries, but then also those further afield countries, in all the measures of monitoring and controlling and hopefully catching people. Let's continue to hunker down, keep your spirits up, look forward to what you're going to do after this crisis. Maybe make a bit of a list of things that you want to do after this crisis. What are some travels? What are some things you want to do? It's good to look beyond. We'll get beyond this in some fashion. The question is, are we doing enough as a whole planet really to do that? And when will that be? So keep positive. And if you've been enjoying this series, please make sure you click that like button and then the subscribe and the little bell button so you don't miss any episodes. And good luck to you all. Keep well, stay healthy.